Hey guys, welcome back to the Hustlin' Horsepower YouTube channel. You're all American hustlers. Appreciate all of you that like and subscribe to the journey and support this in any way, shape, or form. This weekend, we will be headed to Brown County Dragway, home of War in the Woods, for the invite-only Gangsters Paradise Race. 50 of the baddest small-tire, no-prep cars converging into Indiana in that little outlaw track known as Brown County Dragway. Before we head out, we got to replace these Chinese brackets that came with my brake kit, and then go make some small rear suspension changes that I believe will help us get this sucker dialed in just a few days of testing, as long as the weather holds off. See y'all soon. We'll be stocked with merchandise.
So guys, here we are. We're not going to have that be an issue again. So I'm going through here, and I can't say I'm cutting out the most efficient way, but I stopped over. Well, first off, I got to thank Dave, Mr. Bonnet's friends, who gave me a piece of metal. And then Blaze reached out, who's only 5 minutes away from here, and he had a piece of steel that was a little bit cleaner and just a little bit easier to do for the video, so you guys could see exactly how I'm going about this with square edges and stuff like that. So I appreciate both you guys for reaching out, having some material so I can knock this out tonight. The way I'm doing this is a little bit differently, not necessarily the most efficient. Like, you could use less material by going like this, or flipping around and, you know, feeding them into each other to use less material. You know, you could do something like that to keep the materials a little bit more efficient, reposition this one, and so on and so forth. But the reason why I'm doing it this way is this angle here, and this angle here is fairly critical for the clearancing on the rotor and stuff like that. So we're going to go through here. What was I set up? I had it set up this way. So this is a 90-degree edge right here on these two edges. So it allows me to cut less profile here. And this right here is just weight and extra material. This edge here is for clearance, and this edge here is for clearance. That's why I did it on this way here, to try to minimize as much the important parts, right? Be able to knock these out a little bit quicker, a little less sanding, and so on and so forth. But when you're marking out, you want to hold your marker at a 45-degree angle so it gets in there nice and tight on the wedge. And then go through here, and as fluid as you can be. We're not coloring, like when you're making these deals here. You don't want to color, and you want to go in a consistent way. Now this side here, doing this one, these are the chamfered. So you go through here, and you could work the marker around in, like, you know, in an angle to get your centering right. Because if you don't hold a consistent angle, then your hole is going to be oblong and offset. Here, this is the what's called here wheel speed sensor. I'm going to mark it out, even though we don't run it on this side. This will be the normally we run it on the right front tire, simply because in the type of cars that we run, the way the motor rotates, the way everything rotates, the left front tire is going to come off the ground before the right front tire. So the way I had it set up on the drop axle, I did put the smallest little preload in the front anti-roll bar. The reason for that is, in video, I could see if the left front tire was lifting off the ground, literally just like the preload there was almost nothing. But the tuning in the drop axle was very, very, very tight. So in retrospect, in hindsight, I should probably put the wheel speed sensor on the left front, because if it drops out of wheel speed on the left front, I could add a timing retard in there or something like that, so that it the right front tire doesn't come off the ground. Because when the whole axle comes off the ground, well, then it porpoises the effect. But as long as we get some testing in here, we're going to run the independent front, or the independent front suspension. But weather isn't necessarily looking the best in anywhere in the Northeast, or anywhere really, Ohio, Indiana, southern Ohio, Kentucky. No, the weather doesn't look the best anywhere, like this whole week before Gangsters Paradise. So I'm probably gonna run a Summit in the morning, pick up some longer wheel studs for the RC Components wheels. So, because I had to steal them off the hubs off the drop axle setup, so I could put them on the independent suspension setup. So I'm probably gonna get some different replace those so that the drop axle could bolt in, because I just spent probably about $500 to go out to Bunker Hill, Indiana, just for that brake caliper bracket to fail to take me out of competition. Now, fortunately enough, it happened before competition, so I didn't pay my buy-in and stuff like that. But I don't like leaving in the middle of a race or like on race day. Like, that's just when spectators come out to see us or this or that, I feel bad leaving during the race. But you know, we have some very important things coming up this week, and my schedule is my hands are full. Like, I was supposed to leave for North Carolina today after testing and racing to go pick up the school bus and go pick up my the parts from the machine shop down at Gibbons Motorsports down in North Carolina, pick up all that stuff so I could start working on putting that piece together. But and we could have the school bus to take it to Gangsters Paradise, to take the trailer to Gangsters Paradise, so then we could sell the prison bus and I could turn that into our 36-foot trailer that we need to come up with before too long, so we could haul 2 cars and we could haul our merchandise and make everything a little bit easier on us in the trailer. But right now we're gonna knock out these brackets, get this car race ready. I'm gonna go, I have some Mickey Thompson tires on their way that aren't gonna be here for testing before the race, but they'll be here like for the race. So I'm probably gonna go buy a set of Mickey Thompsons for this thing, pick those up so that if we have to run the drop axle, I have 2 changes to the car that I feel would help us out. I think the Mickey Thompsons will help us out with the independent front suspension too, but I think they will definitely help with the drop axle with the changes that I made, the other changes I made to the car. So I made a bar change. I lowered the instant center 2 inches in the car. It is a ladder bar setup that I built for the car. So we're gonna go through that. I'll video that, or I already did it, but I'll walk you through the process and talk about the serrated plates and stuff like that I did. But I'm gonna go start cutting these out. I might whip out the plasma cutter and rough them out with the plasma and then get them on the bandsaw and clean them up. Like I said, the way I mark these out, it makes it the easiest for the clearance and stuff like that. The most critical pieces to clearance the brake setup here. But we're not gonna let that happen to us again. That would have wrecked the car, and could have wrecked me too. So eliminate that issue and try to get ready for Gangsters Paradise this weekend. Guys, I appreciate all of you that like and subscribe to the journey, are watching the videos and stuff like that. Our hats aren't probably going to be here for Gangsters Paradise, but we will have the thermoses. That's not what they're called. The tumblers, the Hustle and Horsepower Straight Gangster tumblers. And we are going to be fully stocked with merchandise on Tuesday. So as soon as merchandise comes in, we're probably going to head out of here and find a place to test Tuesday and Wednesday. And then Thursday morning, be at Brown County Dragway for Gangsters Paradise this week. Follow along on the journey. We'll see you soon. All right, guys, as I'm going through and making new caliper brackets here, this is just brutal. Ready? See how this is nice and tight in here? I wiggle around, no noise, right? Same chamfer, ready? I don't know if you can see that well, but like, look at that gap in there. Hear that? This chamfer right here, same freaking size. Now, what's really gonna blow your mind, if I can get this in here, you can still see that the powder coat is still on there. See the black powder coat still on there? Where is it? See how the black powder coat is still on there? Like, and the black powder coat is literally 360 degrees all the way around there. Meaning that was the size of the hole when the manufacturer made it. Compared to this one. That's just brutal. All right, guys, here we are. We're gonna go through and we're gonna tap out the these pieces that we made. And this right here, okay, this is from a puller set, but believe it or not only puller sets, even a brake flaring toolkit will have a center pin in it. So I'm gonna put the center pin in the drill press here, and when you use a tap, I'm gonna flip this camera around, I'll mount it on the tripod and walk you through it. All right, guys, I got the center pin mounted up in the drill press here. We're not using the drill press as a drill press, we're just gonna use it as a centering pin. Now, a tap handle has, all of them have a hole in it. Well, any decent one has a hole in the top, which is the center pin there. So we're gonna have to tap these suckers out, and we'll have to go through, oh, don't tell me. Don't tell me. Okay. We're gonna have to improvise. What else is new? Da-dum. Like me toe off? That's me toe off. Okay, and I marked these, okay? Since part numbers were DEE 4501 and 4502, don't ask me how I remember that. I remember those things. These are gonna be the chamfer size because they're the same brackets, right? They're the same, but they're opposite. So we gotta tap these ones from this side. This bracket's gonna have to get tapped from this side, and this tap bracket's gonna have to be tapped from the opposite side. Now the tap side and the chamfer side are opposite of each other. The factory bracket, factory junk is over here. You can see that the chamfer and the thread side start opposite of each other. So it has to be the same on the bracket as well. Now these are the same, but they're flipped. So on the other side, it'll be chamfered on this side, and these pressed in deals would be on the opposite side. So we know that when we're tapping this, I marked them with a T and a C, tap side, chamfer side. So we're gonna go through on the tap side here. We're gonna lock this in. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Okay, lock that in there. And this is gonna center it. Get that nice and centered. Just gonna hold a little bit of pressure on it. Put a little of our cutting fluid on there. We'll lock this in here as a backstop. I'm gonna tap this sucker. What the hell? Some to freaking days. You serious? That screw freaking loosened up. Oh my goodness! I might just be getting lucky here, but we'll see. I think it's better be lucky than good, right? Because I might be good, but I sure as hell ain't lucky.
What's it doing?
Bolting together. Go for it.
One of those motors when you were about fucking rioting. Is that the 90? Yeah, I think it's probably 90. You raced an indoor series?
So guys, here we are. You can see the spacing right here. See how there's the space here? I have the caliper pads backed in all the way. And you can see the spacing here and no spacing here. So that means the shim pack here on these new caliper brackets I just made, I need to take that shim out and they'll move it over about 30 thousandths and even up the spacing right here on either side of the pad. Because you can see right now, there's the drag on the inside, well, outside of the rotor here. So we're gonna move the caliper over just a hair by taking that that shim out of there.
So guys, I just spent some time going over baseline suspensions calculator, instant center calculator, anti-squat calculator, whatever you want to call it. And I went through here, and you can see the Sharpie mark right there. I do have shock sensors on this car. We run low-dollar shock sensors. It's mounted on the other side because the way the car lifts and stuff like that, it's mounted on the right side. Normally, I'd run it in the center. Ideally, it probably should be on the left side. But if the chassis is right, it extends pretty level. Ideally, you'd have them on all four corners, but, you know, time and money. You know how it goes. So I marked this here. I'm going to raise it up. I have limiters on the car right now, so I want to calculate front end travel. Just measure that for my reference point. We went through and I made some changes to the rear of the tire here, but after I lift the car up in the air, I'll talk to you about those a little bit as well. All right, guys, we're gonna go through here. We're gonna measure this now, how much suspension travel we have. Right now, it's hard to tell for sure, but it's right around 6 inches of total travel, right around there. 6 inches of extension. All right, guys, this is my ladder bar setup that I built for this car. And these are serrated blocks. There's 2 half-inch bolts in here, grade 8, of course, with extra long shanks on them. But so the shank is always on the bolt. So these slide up and down in here, so I could change the instant center point. On a ladder bar setup, this is your instant center. Length is a fixed length, and whatever this is off the ground is your height. So in hindsight, I should have built my main hoop a little bit differently. But that's what happens when you build a car in 2 months and 2 days. I should have built this so that the pickup point was underneath my seat. It wouldn't have had as much adjustability, but it would have had enough adjustability by putting this instant center out a little bit farther. But in due time, I might go out here and make a modular bracket up here so I could turn this into a 4-link setup. But the ladder bar works very well for what we're doing here. I just gotta find its happy point with the other changes that we made to the car. So right now in the rear of the car, this is we have another shock sensor here, another low-dollar motorsport shock sensor. But down here, we could change the ride height on the car. Now, if I change ride height 1 inch in the rear, these are the Tin Soldier brackets that I used when I built this. I've built this rear end 3 times now, so it's not the prettiest looking thing, but it is what it is. These brackets here, if I lower this 1 inch, it'll drop about 8% anti-squat on the deal. So I might do that now. I might not. I haven't decided right now, but I'm debating about taking this out another 8% from the change that I made up to the front. I dropped the eyelet 2 inches in the front, which is a pretty significant change on a ladder bar car, but we've been fast with where it was.
So guys, in the small tire no prep world, we run on a 28-inch tall, 10.5-inch wide tire. Now, these usually have, I'm not going to get into too much specifics, but there's several different types of tires. There's Hoosiers and Mickey Thompsons are the 2 primary tires that you'll see in the small tire no prep world. There's other manufacturers out there, but Hoosier and Mickey Thompson have a pretty good lockdown on the market. Right now we have a stiff sidewall Hoosier on the car. It's a 28-10.5 C07 is the tread density, I guess you could say. And then it is a 18155 C07, which is a stiff sidewall, which means the sidewall here is pretty stiff. Now, Mickey Thompson makes a 3055S, which is their version of a stiff sidewall 28-10.5. But to my knowledge, the band on the Mickey Thompson is a little bit narrower. The sidewall is a little bit softer than the Hoosier. I'm going to wrap this all up when I get to it a little bit deeper. Now, a regular slick has a really soft sidewall here, and they form a lot easier. They wrinkle a whole lot easier. Now, there's multiple theories on this. There's, of course, hard information on it. My personal opinion on it is if you wrinkle a stiff sidewall in it, the more you wrinkle a stiff sidewall, of course, the more energy you put in the tire. But when you wrinkle a stiff sidewall, you put more energy in that tire. It takes more to wrap that tire up. So when the axle center line here, so like this is about 14 inches. When this comes down to, let's say it comes down to from 14 inches. Let's say you wrinkle this tire so hard that it comes down to 12 inches. 12 inches on a stiff sidewall tire and 12 inches on a soft sidewall tire is two totally different amounts of energy in the sidewall of the tire. And to know when that tire is going to come back to a circle, when that tire unwraps, is a very critical thing in the no prep world. Making this tire as happy as possible and being able to deliver the most amount of power as smooth as possible is the name of the game in the no prep world. So I'm going to be tossing. I want to try a set of Mickey Thompson on this car. The Homegrown Hustler, our previous car, hated the Mickey Thompson tire. It didn't like it. We picked up a whole lot by switching to the Hoosier. I've ran Mickey Thompsons on this car previously with a couple different variations in the chassis setup, but with the new variation in the chassis work that I've done the last week or so, I want to try to toss a Mickey Thompson back on this thing. So I got some coming that are being delivered to the race, but that doesn't really help for testing. So I might run out and pick up some tires in the morning and toss these. These are good tires still. They have plenty of life left in them, but I want to try it with a Mickey Thompson simply because of that band is a little bit softer. It's a little bit narrower. The sidewall's a little bit softer. So it's going to hold a little less energy in the tire, in the sidewall of the tire, making that spring action a little bit less. So this goes into shock settings and all the rest of that too, right? Your shock, when you control shocks and make shock changes, that's important and all, right? Like that's the name of the game. But your shock only controls the speed of mechanical movements, okay? Your mechanical movements are dictated by the bar angles, which is your instant center length and height, and your spring rates, okay? There's a lot of people that don't play with spring rates in drag racing in whole, and changing the spring rate is a big factor on how much mechanical energy you're putting in your setup. So I don't want to talk too deeply about this because this isn't what this video is about, but it's talking about the changes that I'm making to Straight Gangster to get ready for Gangster's Paradise. But spring rate and bar angles are the mechanical factors that play into the main factors that play into everything. Your shock settings just control the speed of those movements, or try to control the speed of those movements. So if you go out and buy a pair of shocks that are really loose and your car works better, that's great. That's a step in the right direction, but you might have hid a lot of, or not fixed a lot of problems in your suspension. I'm gonna try to explain this on camera the best way I can. It's easier in person when I could read off of someone, when I could see if they're following along or not. But in suspension settings, in my opinion, you got 100 numbers, okay? You could break it up 50, 50, 0, 33, 33, 33, so on and so forth, okay? But that is essentially speed, time, and distance, okay? For how long, how much shock extension you have or compression you have, over what duration you have, and how quickly that happens, okay? Now, when you start playing all these into effect, it all wraps back into the main two factors of bar angle and spring rate. In the ideal world, it would work for really hard, for a really long period of time, you'd have plenty of distance, right? But like that, we don't live in a world like that. You could do some really cool things with offset 4-link bars and stuff like that, where you can make it work a little bit longer, or long ladder bars, so on and so forth, to combat that. But Good movements, too fast, are no good. Too good movements, really slow, are no good. Good movements at the right time are good. Bad movements, too fast, are bad movements. Bad movements, too slow, really slow, are still bad movements, but they might be hidden. You might not be able to see them, okay? So just because you have a bad movement and you put a really tight shock on it and your car goes faster, it doesn't mean you got rid of those bad movements, okay? It doesn't mean you fixed your spring rates. It didn't mean you fixed your bar angles, but a really tight shock setting might fix that. And sometimes that's a Band-Aid that you need to use. And I don't want to admit this, not that I don't want to admit this, but that's what we had to revert to when we were out there at a war in the woods. And I had to revert to some methods that I don't prefer to use, right? I'm a firm believer in chassis management over power management. If the car works really, really well, power management becomes really, really easy. If you got a car that doesn't work well, well, then power management becomes way more difficult. And I don't want to screw it. Life's short. So I'll go racing. No. It is easy to type on the keyboard. Okay, I'll say this. Like, this ain't no life hack or nothing like that. It is, but like, people are lazy. It is way easier to type in numbers on a keyboard or change the nitrous pills on your nitrous kit versus going under there, testing, moving bars around, moving weight around, making shock setting changes, so on and so forth, okay? Generally speaking, my first round tune-up is that's the tune-up I plan on running, because that's the tune-up really close to what I feel like it's gonna take to win the event on that surface, okay? I make shock setting changes and generally not weight bias changes, because I try to show up to the track with what I want, but I'll make some basic power management changes, really basic, really small increments, but I focus on tire pressure and shock settings to make the car happy as possible. Now, of course, if like the temperature, there's a big swing in temperature, or there's other factors that happen, well, then you got to get into power management and stuff like that. But chassis management will beat power management every day of the week if you nail it down. And that's what I've been focusing on in the last week and in the last few videos here, is getting this chassis to work as efficient as possible. Yes, it's a twin turbo big block on methanol. Yes, it makes some pretty good power. Yes, it makes some pretty good mile an hour. But I promise you, there's small motors out there that are worth way more money than my conventional big block Chevy, that will make way more power than my big block Chevy, that have the ability to go way faster than my big block Chevy. There's a lot of LS based combos out there that will, like, as far as power level goes, they'll make me look silly. And it just is what it is. Like, they have some better parts and stuff like that. And even though it's smaller cubic inches, they got a better engine combo per se as far as horsepower wise. But making the chassis work as efficiently as possible is the name of the game in the no prep world. And the bar changes that we made, the front changes that we made, and this tire change that I'm going to make should make a pretty significant change, even with the same tune-ups in the car. So we're going to make the rest of those little changes here, and we're going to get back after it and get this car ready to test maybe tomorrow night.